Take us back to the history of this Valentine. Where did the name Valentine originate from?
It came from a priest called Father Valentine.
Okay.
Who lived in the 3rd century. So he used to perform secret marriages. Because at the time there was an emperor called Claudius who had forbidden marriages because he wanted his men available for war.
Okay.
So what this priest used to do is he used to get couples together in secret, and then he used to perform the sacrament of marriage.
Okay.
So it is for this that he paid with his life. He was killed in the year 269. So that is actually why we say he's like the saint of love, the priest of love. So that's why we celebrate Valentine's Day.
All right.
It's a day to celebrate love.
So talking about the saint of love, is it also, does it mean that we can also say that he is the patron saint of love?
Is there a patron saint of love? Well, all saints love God, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So and God is love. So all saints, you could say, are patron saints of love.
Of love.
Because the defining characteristic is their love for God.
Okay. And then that again makes me ask this question, Chris.
Yeah.
Do we celebrate this day as a feast day on the church, the Catholic Church calendar?
No.
Why?
No, we don't. So exactly, that's a very good question. So there are many stories. So the story Chris told is one of the stories, many stories that are attributed to Saint Valentine. So the church wasn't very sure. So what the church is sure about is that there is a Saint Valentine, and his remains are in Rome, in the church of Saint Praxedis. Now, but the story itself is not very well known about this Saint Valentine, and so because of that, actually, this feast day had to be removed from the calendar of the church.
All right.
So it's not in the calendar of the church. But some people actually celebrate on the 14th of February. Some people actually, there is a custom of celebrating Our Lady of Fair Love on the 14th of February.
Okay.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And talking about love, Sheila,
Yes.
in my introduction I said that romantic love is important part to people's lives. And
Yes.
you actually affirmed that by saying that we were created by love himself, that is God.
Yeah.
Okay. And also it is an important part of people's faith, there to speak. Now, can you explain to us how human life serves as a mirror of divine love?
Yeah. So that's a good question. Okay. So now human love for sure, as we were created in the image and likeness of God, and God himself is love. So for sure, even us, we are called out to live love, to live a life of love.
Okay.
Yeah? And so, well, if we're created in the image and likeness of God, then we have to look at how does God love? Because if he's like the one who gave us the way to love. Yeah, he's love. He's created us in his image, so we are also called to love. But then, okay, how do we love?
Okay.
The way God loves. Yeah, and we can see there are many stories in the Bible where we can see how God loves. One, the prodigal son. Imagine, this son has gone, squandered everything, and comes back, and the father does what?
Embraces him.
Embraces him.
Yeah.
Takes him back, Or even the commandment of love. God, Christ himself actually also told us to do that. And I think it's because he's like, this is what I created you for. Let me also remind you. He made sure that he told us, that this is the greatest commandment, to love God above all things and to love your neighbor. So we can see all these examples. But the other examples, if, for instance, even Christ himself dying, that's an example of love.
Yeah.
Dying on the cross for those he loved. He loved us even to the point of death on a cross. So you can see it's a sacrificial love.
Love, yeah.
So you can see it forgives all things, but it's also, on the other hand, sacrificial. So in short, yes, Valentine's, we're celebrating love. So our love how should it be?
Okay.
Is it like that? That's a good question to ask ourselves. Is our human love like that? Are we sacrificing ourselves for the ones we love? Are we taking them for giving everything? It's a really, really I don't know what I can call it. It's quite deep. Yeah, I don't know what I can say, but it's just one of those things that I'm looking for words I can't find.
I get it.
But the standard is high. That's
So
what
high.
I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Exactly. The
Okay.
standard is really high. Yes.
In other words, Chris, what
Yeah.
I'm hearing Sheila say,
Yeah.
that for our love to mirror divine love, we need to love like God.
Exactly.
How
Yeah.
possible is that?
It's very possible. And Pope St. John Paul II, in trying to get us to understand how God's love is, there's something he said that's very profound. He said that God, in his deepest mystery, is not a solitude, but a family, since he has in himself fatherhood, sonship, and the essence of family, which is love. So by using this idea, metaphor of a family, he's trying to show us just how God loves, how the nature of the relationship of the Trinity, and how our love should also sort of mirror that. And also going back to the Gospels and seeing how Jesus was trying to get us to understand this idea of love in what he taught through the parable, like the one Sheila mentioned of the prodigal son, how we see the father who's full of mercy for both sons, actually, not just the wayward son. There's even the second son, you remember, who refused to go in.
Yeah.
And he didn't send any servant out to go and call him. He went himself and was very patient.
Yeah.
So through parables such as those, we see how Jesus wants us to love. And then also his own example in washing the disciples' feet on Holy Thursday at the Last Supper. And then after he's washed their feet, he's told them, he's given them an example for them to follow. And then he gave them the new commandment that you love one another. And it is by this that people will know that you're my followers.
Okay.
So love is the defining characteristic of us Christians. So how will people know we are Christians? How we love one another.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Sheila, let me ask you this random question. Do you view Valentine's Day as more religious or secular in terms of celebration?
Okay. I would say it's human. So I wouldn't say it's whether religious, secular, it's human because love is a characteristic of human beings. Yeah, it's one of those things that is very defining in human relationships. So it's a very human thing. So it can go either way, but it's fundamentally human. But because it's fundamentally human and human beings were made by God, also it can be, by the way, we can really, now the way we're making that parallel, human love and divine love, but we can also look at it in that way because we were made by God. So we can't really separate also, is it secular? I think it's human. That's what I would say.
And talking about the humanity aspect here, we understand that our human nature is good, but we have so many things that go wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, especially when love is involved.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
especially when love is look at what is happening, what has been happening all around.
Yes.
Okay, which is why I really want to invite Chris to tell us how important is chastity in safeguarding love.
Well, you could say it's the watchman, it's a gatekeeper. Because you see, if chastity is not lived, that means it gives way to lust. And the problem with lust is it's such a selfish and self-centered desire that just destroys everything. Because you see, it seeks to dominate and to use. And people are not objects, people are not things to be used or to fulfill certain objects. Or how could I describe it? To fulfill certain wishes. But they in themselves need to be loved and respected. People are themselves objects of love. Like God loves, created man for his own sake. So man was the only creation, part of creation that God willed differently. So without chastity, you find yourself like you're unable to truly love. You cannot love someone truly without living chastity. And the problem, we also see part of the mission, part of the apparition of Fatima, that Mother Mary told the children that most people go to hell because of the sins of purity. So it just goes to show you how important the virtue of chastity is.
Okay. And talking about chastity as a virtue, Sheila, do you think that there are things of value that we are omitting when we are celebrating Valentine's Day?
Okay. Yes, I think so. Okay. Things of value that we are omitting. Because it's a celebration of love. then it's like we should be showing how, in Valentine's Day, we should be showing really how to love, isn't it? What it's really to love. But then, unfortunately, I think what has happened is that it's become a feast of lust. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's become a feast of lust. That's opposite of love. Yeah. And as Chris is saying, we have to, if for us to order this love rightly, we need a virtue. So what is love? Maybe we could ask, what is love? Yeah. Love, first we said, okay, it's well, I could say usually it's defined as a philosophy. It's defined as wanting the good of the other person.
Okay.
Wanting what is good for the other person. That's one, yeah. Now, or it also, we see it, this is one way that human beings are able to see it very well, that it's also giving of yourself to another person. Now, your body and soul, isn't it? And so people understand this very well, because now, for instance, in sexual relations, this is giving of yourself, even bodily, isn't it? But there is a place for that, and that's where chastity comes in.
Okay.
Yeah, but you can't give what you don't possess. So, unfortunately, what is happening is that most of us don't possess ourselves.
Yeah.
Why? Because we've gotten into vices, for instance, like pornography, that have enslaved us. So if you're enslaved, then you don't possess yourself.
That is true. Yeah.
So that's what is happening. People think they are giving of themselves, but they are not, because you don't possess yourself. So you're possessed by these vices against the virtue of chastity.
All right.
So that is, I think, one of the ways to actually really and truly give of ourselves and live out love is by being able to possess ourselves. And the way to possess yourself is by virtue, because virtue then orders you, helps you, Rudi line, you come back to the line,
yeah.
And now you're able to possess yourself, and so be able to give of yourself as a gift to the other person. Now, the way we say you can only give of yourself to the other person in marriage, at least bodily.
Yeah.
In marriage, because you see, if you are to give yourself, because let's say you have sexual relations outside of marriage, you see, you're not even assured of this union. I mean, you're not married until you're married.
Yeah.
So you're not assured of this union. So if you give yourself to this one, then is there a giving really? Because it's shared with other people. So it's not a total giving.
Okay.
A total giving is only possible in marriage because you've committed to be with this person. Now, if you're giving yourself to all the boyfriends you'll have, all the girlfriends you'll have, then there is no total giving. Because you give this one next week, this one. And so that's what is happening. Valentine's Day, in the end, it's not a celebration of love. It's a celebration of lust.
Okay.
Yeah.
A celebration of lust. Now again, Chris, listening to Sheila has brought it so well on how what is making this love thing and Valentine's thing lose meaning because of lust. What do you have to add on that?
Well,
now that again leads me to the sins against chastity. Sheila, if you may begin, what are some of the sins against chastity then?
Yeah, so I started with
opposed to the partial lending instead of total giving that Sheila is talking about, psychologists like Sheila tell us that there are ways of loving, that these love languages that people can use, proper ones like gifts. Perhaps your spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend is the one who loves gifts, so you buy them a bouquet of flowers. Maybe they're the ones who like acts of service, so you help them maybe with an assignment or something that's stuff. That those who like quality time, maybe a walk in the park, spending more time with you. So there are these ways of showing proper love that don't even need lust. So there's a way someone can feel loved, cherished, without actually you unnecessarily giving yourself outside of marriage. Yes.
Okay.
I mentioned one, pornography, and that's a big vice in our time, and people need to be very aware of that. And pornography, for anyone who doesn't know, is just a display or a performance of the sexual act, for people's entertainment. Yeah. Another one that is very common in our society is fornication, and this is now where two people who are not married having sex outside wedlock, and that maybe people might say, okay, so the version that is there in our country is cohabitation, kamwistes. They're very common, and that's why you can see that these people, maybe that's why the church tells them that they cannot receive communion. Yeah, and many people know that. Why? It's because of that. And then you're like in a perpetual state of not living chastity. Yeah, then there's masturbation. That most of the time comes with pornography use. And then there's adultery, where one of the people involved is married. So this is just one of the examples. You just need one person involved to be married, and it's adultery.
Okay.
Yeah.
And talking about the sins, Chris, is there a way that we can practice chastity as a way of living?
Yes, sure. The first solution and defense is always prayer. You know, when you ask God for the virtue of holy purity, you will get it. You know, Jesus told us, ask and you will receive. So the first thing you have to do is you have to pray, ask for it, and you have to want to live it. Because if you pray for purity, but then you go and watch some of these films, or you expose yourself to some of these things, you will fall. So you will definitely sin. So we have to back up prayer by the good intention. We have to will, we have to want to live purity. Second thing, we have to receive the sacraments, because as we covered, sacraments are channels of grace. So the grace God infuses in our soul give us strength to live our Christian life well. So the more we go for sacraments, the stronger our Christian life becomes, and the stronger our will becomes to say no to some of these vices. And then we have to sort of live a balanced lifestyle, in the sense that we have to know where the boundaries are. Like Sheila said, we have to know how far, like, you know, like a train has to keep on the tracks, otherwise it derails. So we also have to know our tracks, so to speak, in life. Places you will not go, conversations you will not entertain, people you will not meet in certain dark corners. So we also we could call it this prudence, that will also help us live this virtue of purity.
And talking about what Chris has just brought in, Sheila, that again makes me think that it zeroes down again to an individual. For you to say that there are certain conversations that I won't have or I won't entertain, there are certain movies that I won't entertain, it comes to self-discipline. Do you think that we have lapses of self-discipline in terms of having control of what is happening around in society, either in social media or our day-to-day life? No wonder most young men and women are carried away by all this that we're talking about here.
Yeah, it's quite possible. In fact, if you're not managing, for instance, to live a disciplined life, let's say you have a plan, you go to work, let's say that day you are just lazing around, chances are you will end up on Netflix, you'll end up scrolling I don't know where, and then you find yourself in that hole. So it's usually like that. Most of the time, the sins of chastity, usually you will see that there was maybe some level of laziness, or someone was not just giving into yourselves. You're not even practicing, let's say, sobriety, or maybe you're giving into drinking lots of alcohol. You can see that's where most of the time those things will happen there. Or your gluttony, eating too much. You see, there's a lack of moderation in certain things, sleeping in too much. So when there's a lack of moderation in other areas, of course there will also be a lack of moderation in love.
That is true.
In love, so in chastity. So there will be a lack of chastity also. Because a lack of moderation in the sexual appetite. So if there's a lack of moderation in other appetites, there will also be a lack of moderation in the sexual appetite. So you have to, it's like they go hand in hand. If you're not managing to have moderation in these other areas, most likely you have problems with chastity. And talking about love, Chris, do you think our level or the expectations that we put on the other person actually betray us
when it comes to love?
Well, sometimes yes, because everyone has a way they want to be loved, right? That goes back to the whole idea of love languages.
Yeah.
What will the other person do that will make you feel loved? But if you have the wrong expectations, that the only way someone will show me love perhaps is through fornicating, or perhaps engaging in some of these vices, then yes, it does betray us in a way, because sin at the root is a betrayal, right? It's separating yourself from God. So we are wounding ourselves and the other person.
Okay.
If we do that, yeah.
The reason as to why I've asked that question, Sheila, you've actually said it in your introduction, okay, and some of the things that we're expecting this coming Valentine. We know that this Valentine comes on Ash Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay? Talk to Catholics listening to you this morning how this particular day, the celebration Ash Wednesday, need to help them so that they can have a change of heart in order, as we said, in order to be able to love like God does.
Oh, I like that. So Ash Wednesday itself, in fact, as it's on as it's on Valentine's Day, and we are required to give up some things.
Right.
Yeah. And for instance, on Ash Wednesday, we are supposed to fast. That's giving up food, our desire for food. But I think the real fasting is also giving up certain desires that make it very difficult for us to love people very well.
Okay.
So, in fact, it's just to think, okay, who are the people that I love in my life, yeah? Okay, let's say now romantic love, yeah? I have a spouse maybe, or I have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. How can I love them better? Most of the time it could be because it could be that you need to give up something,
right,
so that you can be able to love them better. Maybe they've been complaining that you're spending too much time with the boys. I know girls complain about that.
Yeah.
Maybe then give up. So you can give up that time.
Right.
Or a bit. If you spend every single day with your boys, then you can spend with them maybe from Ash Wednesday, Valentine's Day. You can spend with them maybe, I don't know, Chris, how many hours? But less time.
Yes.
Give up that and then give it. So you see, now you give that up, and then you're able to be there for your spouse, for instance, or your boyfriend or girlfriend, or just that desire to fulfill your sexual needs, for instance, because now many people, at least I am a single woman, and one of the problems is that men are not, not men, just it's very difficult for you to find people who are willing to give up that sexual desire, the sexual act outside marriage. Many people are not willing to do that. Probably you can make that decision and say, from now on, I want to give that up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you've been given the power. We can do it.
Yeah.
It's all in the mind. Chris, what do you have to say on that?
I love your question, because it reminded me of something the previous Cardinal, His Grace Cardinal Njue, used to say. Whenever he'd celebrate Mass, at least the ones I went, just before communion, he'd look out at all of us, at the people attending Mass, and then he would ask, what is it that is keeping you from receiving Jesus now? And I always thought that was a fantastic examination of conscience.
Yeah.
So for Ash Wednesday, maybe that could be the question to ask. So Lord, what is keeping me away from you? And take away anything that is keeping me away from you.
Perfect. Perfect. And that's the best way we can actually conclude this beautiful segment. But before I let you go, I'll begin with Chris, your parting shot, and then we'll wind up with Sheila on the other end. Chris?
Okay, so I'd just like to read a quote here from The Way by Saint Jose Maria. Point number 143. He says, to defend his purity, Saint Francis of Assisi rolled in snow. Saint Benedict threw himself in a thorn bush, and Saint Bernard plunged in an icy pond. What about you? What have you done?
Powerful. What have I done?
Yeah.
Wow. Sheila?
Yeah, just to remind you that you were made by love and for love. Never forget that.